Wow, you are going to enjoy this Smart Woodshop tour from Corey Wells. He sent almost 2 hours of video sharing his shop and some production techniques. I feel bad not sharing the whole thing with you, but I had to cut it down to just over 20 minutes. So it's a tight cut. Don't miss a single frame all the way to the end.
This is my shop tour. The shop is 24 feet by 40 feet long. It's got one large garage door and then a man door. So it's got 2 floors, and it's made to residential standards if I ever want to convert it to a house or whatever. Come on in. Hospital bed that I converted to turn into a base for the Paulk workstation. It tilts and it raises and lowers. I can pull this down and raise this on adjustable feet, and then rollers to roll it in and out of the way. And I have outriggers. I've got 4 of these that I hang off the sides and I store tools on. I decided to forego the holes that you normally put here in favor of a clamping option. This was my first try at a crosscut similar to what you do, but I have another video showing how
Corey
this
Wells
works.
has it figured out with his Smart Woodshop. The Smart Woodshop is really a concept. Yes, there's specific plans that you can build exactly as I've designed to work for me, but you can also take the concepts and expand them and make them work exactly right for you. If you'd like to get a detailed set of plans to build a Smart Woodshop for yourself, the cabinets, the cubbies, the garages, and all of the little features that make it up, and then modify them to fit your trailer, smaller or bigger, your box truck, your van, your tiny little garage, or your massive shop. It's very scalable. You can also add the Smart Station, my tool bench, the Smart Bench, the heart of it all, or any of the accessories like the router table, the cradles for the table saw, or any benchtop tool that you want to hang off the bench, or the best of all, the cart that makes it all mobile so it'll work better for a tiny little shop where you don't have the room, or a massive shop where you want to move your tools closer to the work you're doing. This system works portable or in a fixed shop and just makes you more efficient. If you want to get a detailed set of plans to build any of these for yourself, there's a link in the description of this video down below. You can go there, purchase any of the plans or all of the plans as a package, and then you can download them almost instantaneously 24/7, 365. Enough of my shameless promotion. Let's get back and see what else Corey Wells has to share with us.
These are removable, so if I have a bunch of stuff in here, they're just these roller balls on these guys, so I can just take that in and out. It kind of registers in these little guys, and then it's out of the way. My parallel guides in here, offsets for stock, to so that when I've got my track on here, it just rotates. So I've got different sizes of this that go here. Air setup under here, and I've got a table saw at the end that serves as the outfeed for the Paulk table when I'm cross-cutting. This serves as the infeed for the table saw. I can just adjust the up-down tilt to make that work. Collection going all throughout the shop, but particularly in this area. So I just keep a stick, and I can open or close glass gates based on what I'm working on, and I can turn on and off the work lights over the area. This is an old door that I experimented on before I bought into the Paulk system, and I just used the UJK system to drill all the proper holes, and I used hockey pucks and threaded bar to raise and lower this to the height of the adjoining table over there, the Paulk table. Notched out at the end of the table to fit this router setup that I already had, and then I kind of used Ron's idea of cinching these add-on tables using the TSO cam locks, I think they are called. And this is locked in. It's nice and solid. It's bomber. So I've got this galley here, and I keep a bunch of different pinners and glue setups right here at hand where I need it. Got my air, got good lighting. I'm probably gonna replace those hockey pucks with this leveler. It's a Canadian made product, and I'm thinking I'm gonna probably get rid of this door and make a miniaturized version of the Paulk table that works with this table. So it'll be more of a torsion box design with leveling legs so I can get it exact, because this height is the height of everything in my shop. My table saw, my thickness sander, my planer. So it's kind of vital that I keep this height. These are one of my original sets of workbenches I had ages ago. I decided to keep them. They fit nicely against this bank. I kind of made a modular system, so I have these clamps. Whatever I need to do, I will clamp that station in place, store underneath. I've got all the grinders and sanders and scroll saws that I usually use. French cleats if I wanted to take them down, but they do pretty good for sliding. Glimpse inside, YouTube, thank you. And this is my air. And you might notice that I store a lot of things up top. When I built this shop, I used a truss design that was fairly open. So if you see over there against my long bench, the one that's built in on the far side, I've got lots of storage above and clearly labeled for stuff I need just occasionally. All my router stuff here and here, bits, drill bits, odds and ends, you know, glues, a HEPA 0.05 micron WIN filter that I baby and clean regularly, and a cyclone from Grizzly into a rollable tub that I take out and get the dust out. It's on a remote control, so I can turn it on and off wherever I am. Jointer. I was at the hardware store and they had this crazy dolly, you can't even see it anymore, with a really solid spine and storage racks out each side. So I cut all those off. It's all very skookum metal and it's on rollers. The only thing you can see is the rollers down here. So I divided it into two. This is a bay for all my plywood, and I've got a roller on the bottom so it's easy to roll it in and out. And then I've organized sort of usable large pieces and then long pieces up top and then little scraps on the side. And then on this side, I have a bunch of storage for all my different tools. And this is an independent saw setup that I've had. And so it kind of gets jostled. It's on leveling legs, so it's the same level as this. But because it does get jostled, I just re-register with these T-tracks. And I'll just put a straight edge against the fence. Bring that in line. And then tighten it up. The whole thing just comes off, and I can bring it over to the Paulk table if I'm doing a bunch of pocket hole stuff. The table here rolls over to the Paulk table, and the Paulk table is the in-feed, out-feed for my little bit of planing that I might do, and I just use these rollers to support the piece as it comes through. In-floor heat that I don't use much, but is there for residential later. I've got a heat pump that cools in the summer, heats in the winter, awesome. Not much else in here. This is sort of a storage option I probably shouldn't have done because it wasn't really engineered for the trusses, but it's just awesome for storing some of my prime clear long pieces of fir. We have a sawmill, so we milled a bunch of custom fir for this. What can I say about it? It's awesome. It's sort of old school. I've got dogs in here every 2 feet that work against a tail vise. I think it's 24 feet long. Lots of storage underneath. And then at this end, I put in a face vise, so I can use those clamps I showed you over there. Dog stuff in, clamp it to here, plain stuff. At this end, I've got a machinist vise that we use for metal work, automotive, and a bunch of just sort of stuff I use for that. We keep our electric bikes down here, and again, just more stuff, but all easy to see. All my fasteners are here. My drill press with movable fence, an old bandsaw with a removable top, and my thickness sander, and I think that is pretty much the tour. Eventually we'll probably have a back deck, and I'll partition this area so that there'll just be a door from the shop, and this could be living quarters. Exactly 19 inches in square. So when I do the beveled cut, which I'm going to do on that table, I have a sort of a cross-cut sled that I'm going to set up there after I break these down. I can do the miter cut on those, and there's going to be a pretty close to 90-degree cut just by running these faces along the edge. All of these are overbuilt, so the actual opening for the alcove is 18, but I went, or maybe it's like 17.75. I went 19, but I still want to have a 90-degree fold. So these are going to get cut to 22.5 or something with a bevel, and then assembled. I've already pre-cut the face bevel, so there's a bunch of these. So that's got that 45 cut to it. So those are going to go in the front. This video just showed a combo of the TSO parallel guide and the whatever this is, GR16PE guide rail square. You can kind of do combos with them, but I think what's even more accurate is using two parallel guides off of either the machine edge, like which I'm doing now. I've already cut one piece with this. You go off at the end and it's square to the sides, which is close enough for my purposes because I'm recutting these on site to fit, but I do want the miter fold to be relatively 90 degrees. So I'm not super fussy, but I've taken my square and I put it up against the machine edge and the new cut edge, and it's bang on. They have like a little right there, that's the part that goes against the edge, and then you can just set the dimension, and it's a friction fit kind of lock on the rail. So if you have two of them and you have them both set equally, in an ideal world, you're going to have a perfect parallel cut. So you bring it down, you put the stops down, they do flip up, and then you put them against your piece. If you're super paranoid that this is going to shift, it shouldn't, because there's a friction tab underneath this. You know, that's on there pretty good. But if you were, you could just do the clamp thing like I did for the last piece when I did the combo between the square guide, and it just goes in here, and it's just a quick clamp. You usually just need to do it at one end. I'm kind of just cutting on top of my assembly table, so I had cardboard on here from when I painted these last night, so I'm not going to get too fussy. The one thing you do want is right here at the end, you want support on both sides so that it doesn't pinch the blade coming through that last little bit. These are Lee Valley track attachments, and I just cut a piece of T-track to fit the general width of the two sets of shelves that I was doing, so I could bring them out and then put these two faces against the contours of the opening, and then I laid this down and made my marks on the pre-assembled shelves, and then I had a perfect fit. It's going to work a little smoother with these. I think I'll just cut some longer wooden joins, and then I can do any length really. And I think that profile, I mean, what's that, at least a good foot, you place that in the middle of even a deeper alcove opening, and you're going to get a pretty good idea of what the cut's going to be. You see a lot of guys making track saw cuts with sheets of this, which is fine, but I'm kind of an efficiency freak, and I had a whole bunch of scraps, 1.5 by 1.5, so I just cut a bunch of these cubes. So I got a few in my tool trailer for job site. I keep a few of these around. I'll cut a few more if these start to get squished or whatever. But they're great. You can just literally throw them on the table, even them out a little bit, get your plywood on, and you can make your cut anywhere. This is an old fence that I had kicking around before I got into this track saw stuff. And I ordered these from Bench Dogs UK. They're awesome. They have a, you can see they have a sort of a flat side, and they lock in by twisting this into the hole, and they're perfect 90, and then they register into a T-track. So it was a really nice solution. This thing comes off and on really quick, and I've got a long stop and a short stop built in right here. I did have a setup where I was using this, and then I have a dedicated sort of trough cut right here in this sacrificial piece here. Stanton Holdens, I used clips before, and they go into the parf dogs here. So to make these shelves, I'm gonna have to make 2 cuts. This will be the back side of the shelf. There's gonna be a miter cut going this way and a miter cut going this way. This won't necessarily be waste. I could actually use that as the front and just cut one more 45 on the table saw after. But I already have some pre-cut over there, so I might just burn that. Anyways, so that's the tour, and I'm just gonna set this up so that my stop is consistent and I don't have to measure. So I'm just measuring this first cut to 22.5 and 22.5, and then I'll make the cut. Just use this awesome TSO square. This thing is amazing. It does a lot of different things. It actually works with this table to do with this whole setup. It's got an angle jig that I might do a video on later to make consistent angle cuts. But for the most part, I do use it a lot as a very accurate square. Now when I make the cut here in my dedicated trough, it will not bind. Once we get it set up, I have another TSO product I really like. The aim is to not ever have to really cut into the base. It took a lot of work to make this, and it's a torsion box, so I kind of, all my cuts are elevated 3/4 of an inch. So I've got 2 or 3 tricks. This is for ripping on, when I'm ripping stuff off the table saw. It's got one dog, it's like an 18 mil dowel, and it just registers in the hole, so as the stock comes across, it stays 3/4 of an inch up. I've got a bunch of these, and they nest in each other. This is sort of a Ron Paulk thing. He hasn't done a video on it, but I saw him using these extensions. I have 3 or 4 of these, and they're just extensions that I've made. Power lock, guys. 4 or 5, yeah, actually I'm using them all. But they're basically a cam that cinches up against the bottom from the top. You can actuate the cam with a Allen wrench, and it's pretty awesome. So you can just suck stuff down to the table. This is like dead accurate, so I can go like this, or like this. Okay, those guys are in, and then I can move that up and down, which is basically going to be somewhere around there. And when I'm happy, I cinch that down, and that sucker's not moving. If I do that and say I'm cutting a bigger piece, I have one there, and I have this, then I know it's going to be 90. I want this to be a real tight 45, like a perfect 45 for a sweet looking join. All right, so Dave Stanton, looks like you have done your magic. This looks great. So these are these, I think he's got a third party in the States making these. They're excellent. So you can hear that? Just friction fit. It locks in. You can pivot it on the back one, get it out of the way. On this back, look how easy that is. No clips. The clips, the other way of doing it, they're little clips, and you have 2 of them, and this slides in the channel. But that's the problem, is they slide. So oftentimes when you're pivoting, it slides right off, and these guys you lock to the exact amount, and they work against each other. So they just, and they're very accurately machined. It's a great system. There's a hand knob on that one, so you can, if you want to move the dog, for example, or use a different rail, it's easy to take them off. This one's got a Phillips head. Okay, So this is using my table to do multiple angle cuts and just how I set it up. Sort of a mixed bag of different products. We've got the Stanton locks on the ends of this, so they're pretty great. TSO makes probably the best square I've ever seen. The only improvement I could mention is to replace the knobs that are here with something that's more lockable, like one of those. But other than that, the machining is incredible. So normally I have it set up as a square, but I keep it pretty handy to set up for angle cuts. So this attachment here has onboard screws that screw onto the bottom of this, so you can square off of any surface, metric or imperial. Awesome square. I have it with me whenever I do any cutting. So to do a multiple angle thing, you'll want to set up again one of these Paulk extensions, I'm going to call them, somewhere in the field that you're going to be, putting the edge of the stock on. So in this case, let's say I'm doing, 15 degrees off 90. I tend to use this instead of this because I do find there's a little bit of wobble if your holes aren't great, and you can lock that in and then you can adjust it to any angle. So this is kind of locked in. There's a little set screw here on that fastens from underneath, and so in this case I just set it to an arbitrary angle, 15, tighten that up. I find there's a tiny bit of wiggle, but there's no wiggle when I replace it with a Parf dog with a collar on it. So maybe it's just my holes, but I like to lock it in, and that doesn't stop you from, changing the angle. If anything, it just makes it more snug. So, so that's my method. Then you decide your length. So you can measure, put a tape up against here and measure to this, and then you might want to do an experimental cut if you're doing this. Is for multiple cuts. Obviously I would take this to a miter saw or hand do it or whatever if I was just doing one, but for multiple cuts this is a great way. I will probably upgrade my Lee Valley dog hold down clamp with something that registers better into these holes, but for now this is what I use, or I screw a end block down, and then you're ready to go. So that locks in, you take your saw, you make your cut, get rid of your saw, remove your stock, put your next piece in.
If you're enjoying these Smartwoodshop tours, then be sure to give Corey a thumbs up and a comment. Let's dialogue and talk to Corey and find out what else he has to offer. Also, be sure to give his video a thumbs up and subscribe so you will not miss any of the shop tour videos. And remember, we all want to see your Smartwoodshop tour. Big, small, in a van, in a trailer, in a tent, whatever it is. We want to see your ideas. It really helps everybody. Just grab your smartphone, hold it horizontal, shoot in 4K if possible, and walk around and just tell us all about it. And make sure we get to see your mug too. It's really nice to see the woodworker behind the shop. Thanks for hanging out in the Smartwoodshop and taking these tours with me. You stay safe and have a great day.